Hi, I'm Rae Anne. Thanks for joining us today. I'm here with Dr. Anthony Bach. He's the co-founder of VitalTalk, a nonprofit that works with doctors and healthcare professionals on teaching the tools of communication with seriously ill patients and their family members. Hi, Dr. Bach. How are you today?
Hi, Rae Anne. It's great to see you. And please call me Tony.
Thank you, Tony. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
So, to talk to a doctor about the keys to communication is just such a wonderful opportunity for any patient, because I think that patients that have just been delivered serious news, like a cancer diagnosis or some other serious illness diagnosis, feel lost in the communication process because there's so much information being thrown at them. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think it's so common. Certainly in my experience as a medical oncologist, I see that all the time. And, I remember it myself when I was a young man in college, hearing from a doctor over the phone that my mother was critically ill. And, all I heard was the word spleen and nothing else.
I remember when I was given my diagnosis, and I believe that after I heard the words, "You have cancer," everything else, my brain just couldn't absorb another thing. There was so much trauma taking place in my brain at that point.
Right, right. And the thing is, that's how we're built. Our emotional reactions are there so that we really notice really important things. It's not just like understanding something in the usual way. So it's like how we are. It's like we can't change it. And so we all have to adjust to that, both when we're hearing things like that and when, we're clinicians on the other side delivering things like that.
Agreed. Totally agree. When a patient is given serious news, like a significant diagnosis, when the oncology team and the radiation team is there giving the news, do you believe that it would be important that palliative care be in the room at that point to help guide? Go ahead.
Yeah, to help guide. Well, it certainly can be helpful because having a physician who could be a palliative care physician or nurse or a different discipline, having somebody in there who's really paying attention to the communication really precisely, that really does help anybody, patients, family members, friends, whoever is there. It helps all of them understand and take in the information better. It's so common for, a patient to tell me, wow, I heard the word cancer and then nothing else. Everything was a blur. And then the thing went on for an hour and I left feeling just bewildered, When I was interviewing a patient in a study who said it was like when they come to deliver sawdust for your yard and the dump truck starts to come up and you're going, not there, but they keep going and it's just too late and it just keeps going. She said it was like that when I got my news. And so I think having somebody there who can say, oh, let's slow down for a minute. Oh, this sounds like a big thing. All those ways of helping people process the news a little bit in real time, it is incredibly helpful. Because, having been a patient, Rae Anne, it's the time that you have with the medical team is pretty important and you want to make the best of it, right? And I think a lot of people are hesitant to say to the doctor, oh, wait, slow down, or, oh, wait, I need a minute, right? And yet you could say that. Like, I think the vast majority of doctors would get it and would say, no problem, let me give you a minute. Then they might launch into their same habits again, but at least it would give you a chance. Because you, as the person in the room getting the news, you have some control over that and you can have a say in how that news comes across.
So you shared that you received this news that your mother was seriously ill as a teenager. I can relate. When I was diagnosed at 46, I had 22-year-old twins who were home and received the news as well. Yeah. As a single mom, it has been the three of us for quite some time. And here goes the CEO of the ship is down for the count right now. What I found was that palliative care was rooting for me to get better. And with that, took my family with me, while oncology and radiation was rooting for the cure.
Yes.
So,
Ooh.
if that makes sense. So,
Oh,
so I was wondering, were you given the option of palliative care for your mother when she received her diagnosis?
well, no, because it didn't really exist back then. So I was actually a sophomore in college when this happened. And so it was during
Awesome.
finals week, and I got an old-fashioned phone call, and my father sounded a little funny. And then he said, let me put you on the phone to the doctor. Honestly, I think because he just didn't know what to say, right? And so the doctor came on, and he started to talk about her spleen in great detail, and I really didn't understand any of it. But what I did get was, this is super big, and I need to get on a plane and fly across the country and go see what's happening. And so that's what I did. And that thing that you're talking about having somebody who is rooting for you to make it versus somebody who's rooting for the cure, it's actually a really profound distinction. And I think it's one of the ways that, high-tech teams often get a little off track, right? Like, there's a way to do both, but so much now it seems like we're worried about the technology, and we're kind of leaving behind the part about who's that person in the chair over there.
Attached to the diagnosis.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I remember they had left the computer screen on. And so as a patient, that's on and you're just immediately drawn
Of
to
course, you're
scroll through
looking at
whatever
it.
you can scroll to
Right,
before your nurse comes back in.
right.
And I remember seeing treatment outcome goal, and it said cure. And I was like, okay, a cure. That's, of course, what every cancer patient wants to see. But I also remember sitting there going, well, what does a cure look like? I certainly don't feel the same. I don't look the same. I went
Right.
from feeling relatively really healthy to feeling really sick in a very short period of time, all brought on by treatment, not necessarily the cancer.
Yes.
So when I went to meet with palliative care the first time, that was one of my very first discussions. Like, what is being better going to look like for me?
Ooh, you know what? That is such an important point, Rae Anne, because, having a really major cancer treatment or any kind of serious illness treatment, honestly, I mean, it's kind of a life-changing experience. And even if the disease, gets better, as a person, it just changes you, right? And I think for us to start to talk about that process more with people, so they don't have this expectation that they're going to go back to life exactly the way they were before. I mean, I think honestly no one is exactly the way they were before, and there is a process there that we can actually help at every step of the way with, right? And it's a process where a number of people get through it and go, wow, I'm a different person, but I'm also a better person. It's not just as simple as going back to exactly the way I was before. So I would love that consciousness to be more in the world about, how to really deal well with and live well with a serious illness. Right? It's not like we're just going to put you back to exactly the way you were before. And I wish the advertising would stop implying that, because, I think it doesn't help people. I think it actually confuses people because they think, well, I don't feel like I am before, so something must have happened. The treatment must not have worked right or something, right?
Right.
But, for your body and for your heart and for your mind, it's just a big process that you're going through, right?
Huge.
Yeah.
Everything, all the symptom management that palliative care was able to provide for me, it was so important to know that I wouldn't be tingling forever. However, it's going to be, I may be tingling forever. It can subside. There's options that I have for medication, or there's options that I can have with exercise and better nutrition to kind of, subside some of the side effects. However, my fingers and toes are going to tingle probably for the rest of my life.
Like, I feel like for people like you that I've worked with, hearing about their tingling and saying, yeah, there is tingling. It's a common side effect. And there's some things we can do about it now. And there's some things you can do that in the long run, I think altogether will usually make it get somewhat better. Like that helps. It's not this, it's not, promising that it'll go away, but
Right.
it gives people, it can give you a sense of agency, right? A sense that there is a beginning, middle, and end to it.
Right.
It gives you a little bit of a roadmap. And I think that is so important in these complex treatment sequences. But and then I think there are other things where you mentioned like the way your diet has had to change. I mean, like that is a big thing to get through. And I think any normal, healthy person would need to kind of process that a little to wrap their head around it, right? Like it's, we're coming up to a big holiday and it's a big thing. And I don't think the way to, adapt successfully is to pretend it's not happening. Right? Actually, pretending something is not happening, actually, I think it slows down your true adjustment and the true adaptation that you are capable of making. So I love that, you can be so frank about it and that you can say, yeah, it still kind of sucks. Because there are some things that kind of suck and there's some things that are, kind of good all at the same time, right?
Absolutely. I'll trade a steak and a chicken for a sunrise any day.
Well, see, so what a great observation.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about the different phases of when palliative care is pushed in. So we talked about a little bit about the importance of pushing in the beginning. Unfortunately, that's not the case for most patients.
Yeah.
I was pushed in pretty much in the middle. I was told to, after I had 35 treatments of radiation on my neck, and after 10 chemos, I was told to go home and marinate. And I didn't even know what marinate meant, but I thought that if I was going home, it was a good sign. I went home very burnt.
I guess God.
I went home very burnt on my neck from treatments.
Well, because
I went home with a feeding tube.
Yeah.
With bald. I went home probably about 60 pounds lighter than when I started.
Oh, whoa.
And I went home to two 22-year-olds who were just finishing their last year of college, and that it was that April of their senior year of college.
Oh, wow.
So it was a tough, it was a tough time.
Wow.
And we were kind of, we'll see you in July when you can have your next scan. That's probably going to come out hot, and I wasn't even sure what hot meant. So we'll probably have to scan you again, but we'll talk to you. We'll call you in the middle of June to make that appointment.
Yeah.
And I went home.
Whoa.
Luckily, about a week later, palliative care called me and made an appointment. I was able to go in and meet with them, which was a complete game changer.
Yes.
So do you find that when it's pushed in, especially in those critical parts of treatment, especially when treatment has just ended, do patients have success with it being pushed in at that point?
Well, so let me say that what you experienced, which was having palliative care when you were just finished with your anti-cancer treatment, I mean, that is often a time when people with that kind of cancer are at the peak of their side effects, right? Because the radiation just finished, right? People are still finishing this chemo. It's just a super intense time. And having palliative care come in at that point really helps people deal with their side effects better, recover faster, have a better mood. And so having palliative care, join at that point, I think is so beneficial. And I'm so glad that for you, you were able to access it and, experience the difference that it can make. I think what happens to a lot of patients is that they hear, oh, palliative care, and they assume, oh, the doctors aren't telling me something. The reality is actually palliative care is care for quality of life that helps people with cancer at exactly the point that you were at, and even earlier in the course of illness. Like there was a research study that showed that people with lung cancer who got palliative care from the time of diagnosis, they had fewer symptoms, they had better mood, meaning they were less depressed. They actually even lived a little bit longer, right? And so there are a whole bunch of effects that palliative care can do if it gets started early. And the biggest thing that I see is that a lot of people are really afraid to access it because they think this is only for when it gets, so bad that nobody can talk about it. So I feel like that's the thing that we need to change, that I'm hoping that people like you who speak out about their experience can help other, like, normal people understand that this is what we do to enable people to make the best use of the treatments that are out there that actually can change the illness, right? Like that's your situation. Like that treatment, I'm hoping, knock on wood, gives you a long, long time. And I want to make sure that you get through that in as good shape as possible, right? Because you have things to do. You have to, get your kids
Your
launched.
life.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.